Hi everyone, and welcome to another Aussizz live session, coming to you live from Aussizz headquarters at 290 Collins Street in Melbourne on level 1. My name is Jorge Gamba. I'm one of the migration agents here, and my registration number is 1805594. Now, today I'll be discussing a few things that come close to heart for many of our clients who are aiming to go for PR on the point system. Many of them are very close. They're on the border, very close to an invitation, but sometimes the visa is expiring in the next few months. So should they stay at 75 points? What can they do? Do they have a realistic chance of getting invited? I'll be discussing that sort of thing in the next few minutes. I'll also be discussing why should you hire a migration agent when you could probably do the process yourself? What value do we bring to your application? Okay, because some of you, I know money is tight. You guys, some of you are studying in Australia. Courses are expensive. Living costs in Australia are very expensive compared to many countries. So why should you spend that extra 2, 3, 4K on a migration agent if you could do the process yourself? Well, let me answer why in a minute. And I'll also be discussing the key requirements for PR. I'll be giving you a little bit of an update on the regional areas that are opening up pretty soon, because as you know, now we started the financial year. The financial year 2019-2020 started on the 1st of July. So lots of changes are coming up. Lots of new visas are coming up soon. The requirements keep changing. And so I'm going to give you a list of things you need to know in order to get PR. And also graduation season's coming up as well. A lot of our clients are studying and they're graduating in the mid-year, and their visas are expiring in the next 2 to 3 months, in mostly the 30th of August, around September time. So I'm going to tell you what you need to have ready before you apply for the 485 visa. Okay, so back to the beginning. Is 75 points enough? Depends on the occupation. So some of you know, in Australia we have 160,000 places for migrants. Okay. Now, a percentage of that is taken by the refugee intake, by the parents, by the children, by spouses, by people who get sponsored by companies. And then what is left is eaten by the 189s and the state-sponsored 190s and 489 visas, okay? Now, two things make it really hard these days to get it. The first one is that New Zealanders now can access the 189 visa through a separate stream. So a lot of visas that you would usually be for people who come here and study from different countries, from India, from Pakistan, from Colombia, and they're hoping to go for PR on the point system. They're having to face extra competition from New Zealanders, because some of you know New Zealanders, when they come here, they enter on a 444 visa. Okay, now they don't have to get a visa; they get it at the airport. And it's really easy for them. They're basically like permanent residents on a visitor visa. So now that the government wants a few of them to become permanent residents because of national security and other things, it makes it hard. The pool of competition you're facing, it's much greater. So therefore your points need to be higher. Another thing, that some of you are watching the points and you're looking at the points for the last 3 months, and you notice that they're quite high. Accountants need 95 to 90 points. External auditors as well. People in engineering professions, they need around 85. When 2 to 3 years ago they used to need 60, 65 points. Why is that? Now more than ever, there are people studying in Australia. We've got basically about 1 to 2 million students in Australia at any given time, but there's not 1 million PR visas every year. A lot of those people don't get PR through the point system. Some of them go through employer sponsored. Some of them, enter into a relationship with an Australian, with a New Zealander, or with someone who has access to PR another way. Some of them would be the refugee intake, the humanitarian intake. So, the pool of people competing for those spots is greater now than ever. So you need to get all you can to maximize your points. But there are very limited criteria to maximize. Okay, so you have your age, your qualifications, your experience outside and inside Australia, your level of English, which makes it very hard for some people and very easy for others who speak English since they were kids, and if you can speak a community language, you're a benefit to Australia. So they'll make you do a translator's test, and NADI will say whether you speak that community language at an acceptable level. Now, not all languages are community languages. Punjabi, Spanish, Portuguese, Vietnamese, Urdu, some of them, they're community language, but Telugu, Marathi, they're not community languages. So, unfortunately, if you only speak that language outside of English, you're at a bit of a disadvantage. NATI is next year is introducing a few different languages like Telugu into the NATI test. So for those people who speak Telugu, they will be able to access those extra points. And also you can do professional year, but only few people can do professional year. If you study a bachelor's or a master's in either accounting, IT, or engineering, you can access professional year. But what if you studied marketing? What if you studied business services? What if you studied hospitality? You're a little bit of a disadvantage there. So you really need to maximize your English, and you need to look for ways other than the 189 to get invited. So potentially this would mean for some of you going to South Australia, going to Tasmania, studying in a regional area like in Geelong, like in Ballarat, like in Darwin, for you to maximize those points. Now back to the original question: is 75 points enough? A lot of you will be watching the points, and you'll notice that they're around 80 or 85 points, the minimum you need. Now that's very high. My expectation as a migration agent and watching the points over the years is that at the beginning of the financial year and towards the end of the financial year, the beginning being July, the end being June next year, the points are usually quite high because the government is already filling up the quotas. And actually at the beginning in July, the points are high because the people who were backlogged with a lot of points are still in the system. So we need to wait for them to come out, and then the points can come down a little bit. If you'll see that the points, and this is something I show to my clients during consultations, is I'll show them the graph of the points and how they track over time. So as we enter the financial year, there's more and more invitations. So the more invitations there are, the less points you need. But as you move towards the end of the financial year, the government's filling up the quotas, and then it gets really competitive. So to answer the question, 75 points at the moment is not enough. If you have 75 points, you could potentially look at regional areas like Orana, like Northern England, like Riverina, like far North Coast, South Coast, Murray. Now, what happens in most cases is when our clients sign up with us, we already ready in the system with their points and with their invitations. And when a regional area like Orana opens up, we immediately call our clients and ask them whether they'd be prepared to move to a regional area. Now, for some of them, let's say an accountant on 70 to 75 points, it is very unlikely that that person would get a 189 invitation in the next 6 to 12 months because of the nature of the system. So for those people, they are seriously looking at going to regional areas. That's an option that they should seriously consider. Okay. Now, when I have someone, one of our clients, let's say it's on 75 points and a regional area opens up, and what you gotta be mindful of is that regional areas open up for very short periods of time. Because a regional area like Orana in northern New South Wales, where the town of Dubbo is a city of about 40,000 people. They have limited capacity. So when they open up, we immediately call our clients and ask them, if you would like to go there, I can arrange for an invitation, for a lodgement of an invitation, and then you will be in a good position to receive that invitation down the track and avoid having to study any further, because as you know, once you finish your studies, for some of you, you'll be eligible for a 45 visa, which I'll discuss later. And during your 45 visa, this is where most people try to get invited. Now, if your 45 is nearly finished and you don't have enough points to get invited, and you don't have an employer willing to sponsor you, and you don't have an Australian partner, or you don't have a partner from overseas who has access to PR another way, then almost your last option is to apply for another student visa, which depending on your circumstances could get refused. Because if you studied for a very long time in Australia, and you keep studying, diplomas and advanced diplomas and graduate certificates and bachelors and masters, if you do a natural progression going up, it's okay. It has less chances of being refused. But if you keep jumping from diplomas to masters to diplomas, you have a very high chance of being refused, which for some of you would mean the end of the road. For some of you, you may be able to appeal and then, get on the appeals queue and then buy time over the next 12 to 24 months. And then, if that doesn't go your way, you could potentially fight it at a federal court, but we're talking about a long time, a lot of uncertainty. Federal court is expensive, appeals are expensive. Getting invited is the gold standard. Okay, this is where you want to maximize your points, maximize your options. And if your points are not good enough for 189 because of the occupation ceiling, because of the pro rata nature of some of the occupations, then going regional is an option. But if you're not willing to go regional and you don't have enough points, you're most likely going to end up on another student visa or potentially in the appeals queue, which would not be good, because once you're on the appeals queue and on a bridging visa, before you can apply for another student visa, you have to go offshore and come back, and it's a hustle. At Aussizz, we help a lot of people with appeals. We win a lot of appeals. We've got a good track record, but we never like to go to appeal as the first resort. We're always trying to get the next visa for you. We want you to be safe. We want you to be on a visa, and we want you to get invited. Okay, so that leads me onto my second point of the talk today, which is, what's the value of a migration agent? Why should you hire me or Path or Kunal, Sudhe or Amrit or any of the other agents? What value do we bring to you? Well, let me tell you 3 instances in my personal experience as a migration agent as to why you could consider, and you should consider, getting at least some preliminary advice before you undertake anything to do with immigration. Okay, so the first client I'll speak about is a lady from South America. Okay, she came to this country to do a PhD. Okay, she spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of hard work going to do a PhD at one of the very prestigious universities here in Melbourne. She spent 4 years of her life, sweat and tears, to get this qualification. And when you do a PhD in Australia, you can get a 4-year 485 visa, which allows you to recoup some of the investment you made in those studies. Now, unfortunately for her, she did not want to use my services. I offered to her, I said, this is how much we charge. This is the prospects of your visa. I think you're a very good candidate. I would like to help you. And she said, thank you very much. I'll do it myself. I said, no problems. If you ever need my help, I'll be here. Unfortunately for her, a silly mistake. She selected the wrong stream in the 485 application. She should have selected the post-study work stream. Unfortunately, she selected the graduate stream. Now, for some of you, this may seem like a very obvious thing, like a very easy mistake to avoid. But when you're not familiar with the immigration page, with the applications, these are things that you can easily miss. And once you make a mistake, it's very hard to come back. It's very hard to unwind it. There are many mistakes you can avoid, because many of you, studying bachelor, diploma, some of you are very smart people. Many of you, most of you are very smart, and you could navigate the system. But if you're not used to it day to day, you're not looking for the little loopholes, and you're not looking for the little tricks and places where you can trip, it's easy to miss. Guys, this is, one of the things that happens the most, is that people get tripped up on very easy mistakes. It's not because I want to have all of you, pay me money. Of course, I want to help everybody as much as I can. But, if you're not familiar with the system, you can easily get tripped up. Now, what happened in that case is that at the time when she made this mistake, she got refused. And then, there were very few grounds to appeal. So it was basically useless to appeal. So she had to go offshore to Indonesia and stay there for a month until her sponsor in Australia, because luckily for her, she had a sponsor willing to take her on a 457 visa, which since now is called the 42 visa. For her, it was very lucky. She had a sponsor. She had an employer willing to bring her back to Australia on a work visa. So she went to Bali. She stayed there for a month. She had to spend, money on trip, money on hotel, money on visa application. The employer had to spend money on nomination fees, and eventually she was brought to Australia. Now, in her case, it's not too bad. She continued to have full work rights because she was on a work visa. But, if you're on a 485, you can work for anybody. You don't have a limited, places where you can work. You're not tied to your employer. You can work anywhere. So for her, it means that she has to stay working with that employer until she gets her PR. And I hope she gets a PR soon. But in that case, that's what happened. She tried to navigate the system herself, and she tripped up in a very easy mistake, which some of you would be smart enough to avoid. Okay, but we're humans. Anybody can make a mistake. Another episode where a refusal happened, another one, someone who I offered my help to, but they said, thanks very much, we're going to do it by ourselves, is a person who was being sponsored by an Australian company as an engineer. Okay, and the employer said, I've done this process many times before. Many years ago, I was a sponsor and I could do it again. I said, great, if you need my help, I'll be here. Fantastic. A few days later, the employee rang me back and said, we got refused. Now, one thing you gotta keep note, guys, is that immigration changes a lot. Okay, the list, for example, the list of occupations is made by the Minister of Immigration. That person can change at any time. That person can change his or her mind at any time and, swap occupations. Restaurant managers on, cooks off, economists on, project managers off, engineers on, accountants off. Immigration changes almost daily. We receive updates daily from the department about new visas, about new ways to apply, about caveats, about restrictions, about salary minimums, about the type of company that can sponsor, about the type of regional area that can sponsor, about turnover, about all these sort of things. There are certain areas of immigration that are fairly stable. Okay, people are always going to come to this country to study, and people are always going to be able to settle in some way or another, but not everybody. Okay. Now, in that particular case, when the employer tried to navigate the system and got refused, it was unfortunate for them because now the government has introduced a training levy for employers. So anytime an employer wants to nominate an overseas citizen for a work visa, they have to pay around $1,200 per year. In the case of this person, they were nominated for 3 years. So the employer lost $3,600 in like that because it was refused. And the department does not give you refunds. If your application for a visa is refused, you're not going to get a refund from the Department of Immigration, let me tell you that. So unfortunately, the employer missed the fact that the 457 had changed to a 482. There were new requirements on the labor market testing, which requires employers to put ads up for 28 days before they can offer an overseas employee a contract of employment. In this case, they missed that. They offered a contract sooner when they was not supposed to do it, and immigration refused it. One thing to note when you get a refusal from immigration is that the department, the case officer, looking at your application would, if they see something that is not right and they refuse it, they will stop looking at the other requirements. So it doesn't mean that because they refuse you on, let's say, genuine temporary entrant for a student visa, that they would not have refused you on finances or on other criteria, the health criteria, the character criteria. So that's one thing to note. Immigration changes a lot from time to time. We receive updates daily. So an immigration agent, whether it's me, whether it's anybody, whether it's an agent and it's a trusted agent, they usually keep up, they're supposed to keep up with all the changes that are happening. And there are thousands of changes literally every year. So the benefit is that we are regulated by the MARA as well. We abide by code of conduct, which offshore agents, so agents in your home country, they don't have to abide by that. They don't have to sign up. So onshore agents in Australia, they abide by a code of conduct. and they're supposed to, give you, your prospects of success in any application, deal with monies diligently in trust accounts or client accounts, keep up registration. My registration is coming up for renewal, so that all takes into account. We have to abide by a set of conduct that is quite a high bar, and for us to get registered, we got to go to through some serious training, because immigration agent is a skill level 1 occupation, okay, which is up there with accountants, with engineers, with managers, and that, okay. But case officer at the Department of Immigration, no disrespect to them, I'm sure they're very, very intelligent people too, but that occupation is skill level 4, okay, which means they need very little training in order to decide your application. Immigration case officers at immigration side, sometimes they don't seem to get very good training, because sometimes they refuse visas on very silly grounds. And that's why a migration agent can help you avoid that, because once you get refused, it's very inconvenient. And the statistics that say that about 40% of applicants get refused at immigration side. Now, not all of them are through migration agents, okay? We have a very, 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 very small refusal rate. But if you're trying to navigate the system, and let's say you're in your home country and you want to do it yourself, even if you're here, your chances of refusal just go up, because you're not used to dealing with the system the way we are. We're doing this daily. Another, and this is the last episode I'll tell you about why you should use a migration agent, or at least get some advice, is because it's easy to miss things that can potentially avalanche into big problems. So on the 189 visa, on the 190 or the 49, you can claim points for Australian experience, okay? So if you have 1 year of at least part-time Australian experience in a closely related occupation to the one you're nominated, so say for example, as an accountant, and you've been working as a tax agent accountant, then you can claim points for that occupation, okay? If you're a software engineer and you're working as a developer programmer, or as an analyst programmer, or as a software tester, you can claim experience for those occupations, even though they're not called software engineer. Why? Because those occupations are in the same unit group in ANSCO. ANSCO has 4 digits. Every occupation in the economy has 6 digits, and the first 4 digits determine which group it is in. Now, I had a client before who tried to navigate the system himself. He was a mechanical engineer, okay? I won't say the country. And I offered him some advice, and I said, look, I'm happy to take over your application. This is my fee. And he said, thanks very much. I'll do it myself, okay? Now, what he tried to do was he tried to claim points for experience he could not claim. He was a mechanical engineer, which is grouped along with industrial and production engineers. He tried to claim experience as an illustrator. Now, illustrator is in a very different group. Yes, you worked in Australia for more than 20 hours, perhaps doing some duties that a mechanical engineer would do, let's say in design, diagram, in managing of tools. But that occupation that you're claiming points for is very different from mechanical engineer. So he put himself at risk that the Department of Immigration would say to him, excuse me, but you're providing misleading information to the department because you have not been working in a closely related occupation. And what happens when the department believes you're providing misleading information? They could ban you for up to 3 years or 10 years, okay? They'll say you're providing a bogus document, a false document, a fake, and that could have serious consequences for you. Let's say you spend $50,000 to $60,000 on a master's degree in Australia, okay? Imagine if you were sent home empty-handed and told you couldn't apply for another visa in Australia for the next 10 years. You know, for most of you, for some of you, that would be, you know, that would cut a hole right through your professional life, you know, and the chance of earning good money in Australia. So those are some of the 3 episodes where a migration agent can help you avoid the pitfalls. And by the way, when I was speaking to that mechanical engineer, I did warn him not to do this. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful to try to navigate the system yourself. If you're not familiar with it, if you're not familiar with the legislation, with the policy, which we have access to on our portals, it's very easy to get tripped up on easy mistakes. And how much do you value your future? How much do you value getting permanent residence? Do you just want to get it because it's fun? Or for you and for your family, does it mean not only a change of lifestyle, but a better future? Not only for your immediate family, but what about your family in your home country? Are you going to be able to support them? If you can't get PR, then you may still be able to support them in your home country. Maybe you go back to a really good job once you finish your master's here, or your bachelor's, or your diploma, okay? But, from where I'm coming from, the point of view is that I want you to be safe. I want you to be on a visa that will allow you to fulfill your goals, whether it is PR, whether it is provisional PR, skilled graduate, any visa. Where we come from is to try to give you the best chance to get approved, because no migration agent can guarantee you an outcome. That would actually be against the code of conduct. So any agent that tells you that you have 100% chance of getting approved on any visa is lying and is violating the code of conduct, okay? But what we can do is give you the best chance, the best chance in your application to get approved. And once you're approved, you'll be laughing. Whatever cost you spend on visa, on agent fees, you look back and think it was an investment well worth making. Okay, so I'll leave that aside. If you want to contact me, I'm more than happy to speak to anybody. Write down in the comments below if you've got any questions, or feel free to share this link with anybody you think might benefit from this talk. After this session is finished, I'll be answering some of your questions as well, and over the next 24 hours, I'll try to get back to everybody. But to finalize my talk today, I'll briefly tell you 5 things you need to get PR, okay? You need 1 of 5 things. You need an occupation that is on the long-term list, okay? Like nurses, like ophthalmologist, sonographer, social worker, psychologist, solicitor, engineer of many kinds, ICT. If you're someone who is studying IT, or you're someone who works in IT, how it works at immigration side is that the back end of IT is seen as more professional, and it's seen as more option for PR. So any of you coders, software engineers, network systems engineers, cybersecurity specialists, ICT business analysts, you have a lot of good options when it comes to PR. If you're someone who works in the front end of IT, like a UX, graphic designer, web developer, then you have less options. You probably need to go to a regional area or get sponsored by a company in Tasmania or Adelaide or Darwin. So the first thing is you need occupation on the long-term list, or if it's in the short-term list, you need the help of a state or territory government. Apart from that, you would need perhaps an employer. Okay, so an employer, an Australian employer willing to sponsor you for permanent residence on a 186 or 187 visa. Aside of that, if you don't have neither points nor an employer, you will need a partner. So family. So an Australian or a New Zealander, or someone who has access to PR and lets you ride along with them. The fourth one you would need either is to be someone claiming asylum, protection, refugee status. And the fifth one is for those people who make investments. So anything upwards $1.5 million, business visas. We help our clients with business visas here. If you make an investment in Australia, potentially you can get PR as well. Okay, so there's the 189, 190 or 489 visa, which is now after the 1st of July becoming a very real option for many people who cannot get invited on the 190 or 189 because the competition is greater and the points are not enough. Maybe they can't get the English and they're trying. I've got clients who have done the test 10, 20 times, and they still can't get it because the test is quite tricky, okay? But for some of you, it is the key to get PR, the English test or the NADI. But maybe your community language is not NADI accredited, so you can't do NADI. So then you have less options. For some of you, regional sponsorship is becoming maybe the only option. Now, we're coming up to graduation season. A lot of our clients are finishing their courses, finishing the masters, the bachelor's, diplomas. So they're applying for a 45 visa. There are 2 streams on that visa, graduate and post-study work. Graduate is for people who study diploma level, okay? Let's say you do a base course in Certificate 3 carpentry, and then a diploma of building construction building, and then you can go for a 45 visa. You need to get your skills assessment lodged with TRA, okay? You need to get a provisional skills assessment. You need to get your PTE or IELTS, PTE 36 in each, but overall 50, or IELTS 5 or 6 overall. You need to get your health insurance. Now, with health insurance, you gotta be mindful, guys, that you're not starting waiting periods on your cover, because some of you students are, well, all of you students are on OHSC, but and this is just one policy. But when you transfer onto a 45 visa, you need to get OVC, Overseas Visitors Cover, which has a working segment to it. Now, if you're, if you have a family as well, our recommendation is to get, the cover that's going to get you at least cover for things like pregnancy, okay? And you don't want to start again waiting periods, because some of the insurances are looking to refuse claims. So that's a hot issue at the moment. But when you come to Aussizz, we'll help you buy the insurance, and we'll make sure that you don't have to wait or restart your waiting periods, because that's crucial. And you should buy your insurance the moment you apply, okay? Don't leave, don't have your insurance waiting and lingering there because you want to save up, a few bucks here and there. Once you buy it, get it in place, and that way you'll be covered. And if you get your 45 before your visa expires and you have some time left on your OHSC, you can ask that insurer, give me back some of that money as a refund, and they will, because you're entitled to it. Then you need your completion letter, okay, from the college, from the institute, from the university, saying that you completed the course requirements on this date, okay? Because the government is going to look at whether you did 92 weeks of academic study in Australia in order for them to be able to deem you eligible for a 45 visa, okay? Now, for your dependents, if you've got family, you need birth certificates, you need a marriage certificate if you're married, or registration if you're registered with someone. You'll need, evidence that you have accounts together, that you live together, that your children are yours, or if your children have, a different parent, that you have consent from them to get them a visa. Now, that's a graduate stream. People who study diploma up to diploma level, or even if you study bachelor's, if you applied and got a visa, student visa, before the 5th of November 2011, then you need to go on that stream, even though you studied bachelor's or master's, which, for some of you, it's harsh, because some of you are studying occupations that are not closely related to occupations on the long-term list. So for some of you, you might need to keep studying, which would be, sad, but that's what we're here for, to try to guide you through that. On the other hand, you got the post-study work stream. Okay, some of you will know this. You have to have studied bachelor level, at least 92 weeks in Australia. Most bachelors are 3 years, or masters, 2-year masters. I've seen some 1-year masters. You need to do 2 masters then to make it 2 years. The good thing about the post-study work stream is you don't have to do a skills assessment, okay? It's just you're eligible for it if you study bachelor's, because you made a better commitment to Australia. You spend more money, so they're going to give you an extra 6 months. On the graduate visa, you get 18 months. On the post-study work stream, you get 2 years. And in that time, you'll be working hopefully towards your PR. Okay, so you'll still need the same things. You need insurance, you need your English, okay, you need your passport, your birth certificate, you need evidence that your relationships are still current. So marriage certificate, letters from you, joint accounts, evidence of lease, things like that. Those are the kind of things that we can help you navigate, because they seem simple enough. If you log into the immigration website, you'll see that there are, it lists everything there. Why would you need an agent? Some of you may not, okay, but you can easily get tripped up on little things. So my suggestion to any of you watching this is that if you're, not considering seriously hiring an agent, at least get some preliminary advice, okay? Now, at Aussizz, we have free TR consultations, so free consultations for a 45 visa. If it's a PR consultation, we do have a charge in some instances. So feel free to give us a call, 9602-3435 in Melbourne, okay? And I'll leave my number down below if you want to chat to me, in the next few days about your chances of getting a 45 or getting PR in the long term. Or if you have an employer willing to sponsor you, I'm more than happy to talk to your employer and take them through the process. If you've got a partner and they're not sure whether they can sponsor you, I'm happy to chat to your partner as well. Make sure that you have the right advice before you undertake everything, because immigration may seem like an easy thing, you know. Some of you may do your own taxes. Some of you, when you feel sick, you go on Google Doc and, you know, you might find the cure for your cold. But just like all professions, we're specialized in this area. We know which levels to pull. We know what areas to tackle. We know where your application may be weak and, you know, may need some strengthening. And we know whether you're a good candidate or not. And, you know, we try not to give you false hope. And we'll try to set you on the pathway so you can get PR, okay? Because some of you are not eligible right now and may not be eligible for a few years. But at least we can track and we can, you know, do a plan for you so that you can get PR down the line. We cannot guarantee it, but we'll give you the best outcome, the best chance, the best fighting chance. So that's it for today. I'm located at level 1, 290 Collins Street in Melbourne CBD. Feel free to hit me up, you know, on Facebook or via WhatsApp. I'll leave my number down beloif you want to chat. If you want to look at your options, if you want to discuss anything migration related, feel free to give me a call. I also do consultations in Spanish, so if you have a friend or relative who speaks Spanish and they feel more comfortable in Spanish, I'm more than happy to have a consultation in Spanish. We have agents from all over the world who speak Hindi, Punjabi, Gujarati, who speak Farsi, who speak French. So, you know, we've got it all. So feel free to hit me up. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll talk to you next live.